Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about just the state of the overall crypto market, just because things have been a little bit crazy recently. Obviously, I think there's a lot of pessimism within the market overall. Not for any bad reason, of course. I do think there's a very understandable reason as to why this is happening, but I want to talk a little bit about that further, just to see what's next, right? What do we have going on in the future? What do we have to look forward to? Do we have anything to look forward to? How does the market fundamentally look? And then we can kind of go from there. So, I just kind of want to give a quick update there of what we're seeing. First off, actually, let's start with the crypto bubbles, because what we can see here on the day is a decently nice move on the day. We are seeing some green stuff here, which is good. If we do look at the week, still very, very, very red. We've got a couple greens kind of peeking in here and there, but nothing really too special. I mean, kind of the overall market's still down around 20-ish, maybe even 30-ish%, depending on kind of what you're looking at here. If we look at the month as well, the month going to be looking kind of equally dismal. Obviously, we have XCN, which pumped really, really hard. Everything else, though, kind of not really doing particularly well. A couple more greens here and there. So the month kind of looking a little bit more rosy, I guess you could say. But then we have also some down even more, like virtuals down 60%. Really, really, really strong pull to the downside. So things obviously not looking fantastic there. If we do look at Bitcoin, though, I mean, we're kind of seeing a lot of the same stuff here. Let's actually just pull this up into full screen. And what we can see is, we're just kind of consolidating, right, between this kind of like the upper bound of about 106-ish. Obviously, we've seen a couple of wicks above that, and the lower band of about 91.5, and then again, we have seen, a couple of wicks below here as well, but nothing really too crazy. Where we're sitting at right now, RSI is sitting at about 42, so a little bit under average, but not anything too insane. We can see, lots of wicks coming in here recently. We've tried to see some momentum kind of coming up to the upside, rejected every single time. So, we might be seeing some potential short-term selling pressure, just because we've seen 3 red candles with very, very large wicks to the upside. So usually not the best, not the best, I guess, type of situation, especially when we're looking at the daily. I mean, I think this would indicate a lot of selling pressure. And so, we've got to figure out how long does this selling pressure last? How deep does it go? A lot of that type of stuff. But what we can see is, I think there's a lot of reasons to be fundamentally bullish here within the crypto market. We'll go into that here in a second. If we look at Ethereum, we'll also take a similar look here, just because I think people are starting to take some closer looks at Ethereum. If we do zoom in, though, riding this Bollinger Band all the way to the downside, which is definitely pretty rough. I don't think we really have not seen anything particularly impressive coming from Ethereum. So, hopefully we see that change. We can see that very clearly on the RSI here, basically sitting very, very close into oversold. Technically not an oversold, because that threshold is 30 and we are sitting at 31.3. So, not there yet, but things definitely looking a little bit rough. Bollinger Band's definitely showing us overextended to the downside. But again, that doesn't mean we're going to immediately come back to center or even come back to the upside. I mean, there's no guarantee that any of that is actually ever going to happen within the short term. Usually over a period of time, this happens. But as you can see, we've basically been below this average for most of the recent past, basically ever since we came down back here in the middle of December. We had this super quick pump back above it here. We were kind of fighting along this line for a little bit, and then now we're kind of way below. And all the while, this average has come down from 3,800 down to about 3,000. So the average is getting lower and lower over time. Obviously, here it was getting higher and higher over time, but that's just kind of how this works. Overall, this type of stuff is pretty volatile, and it just kind of ebbs and flows over the course of time. So anyway, that's essentially what we're seeing here on Ethereum. Bitcoin about the same. I would say Bitcoin generally just looking overall stronger than what we've seen kind of out of anything else. I don't know that that's a super huge surprise to anybody, just because Bitcoin really has, I think, shown immense strength over the past several months. But if you are interested in trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, XRP, anything like that, I do have that link in the description below to BTCC. They are doing that 10% bonus on first-time deposits, so a really, really good deal there. Also, extra bonuses of up to $10,055 per user. So BTCC definitely willing to throw a whole bunch of money at you to get you to come over and sign up with them. Also, no VPN or KYC necessary. I know that that's kind of a big thing for a lot of people, and so if that is something that's important to you, then they do have that as well. So like I said, anyway, just move on over, check the link in the description below if you are interested in signing up for a new trading exchange. Now, moving on, I want to take a couple quick looks at some different things. So first off, we'll go to the crypto fear and greed index. And as we can see on the fear and greed, we are actually getting very close to fear. It's, in my opinion, it's looking very possible that we actually do dip into fear. I've kind of been saying this ever since December, that I thought we would probably see something like this happen. My conviction was tested a little bit that, that we kind of stayed so high for so long. I did maybe say that, potentially we would only see neutral, which we have seen. We've seen neutral a couple of different times now. So, but it does look like my initial kind of estimation of us getting back into fear could be quite probable. And to be completely honest, I think the only reason we aren't in fear or extreme fear is because of how well the Bitcoin price is holding up. Because as we've seen before, like Bitcoin's doing okay, right? I mean, it's probably 10-15% off its like all-time highs. So really not much of a correction at all. If we go back, actually, we'll just take a quick look here. But like we saw it basically move up, and it's been consolidating at or near its all-time highs for the past several months, which is obviously really, really good news. We can see this. Really no pullback to speak of. I think it's fair to say. But if we look at like the alts, I mean, the alts are getting absolutely blasted. And so I think what we're seeing here is kind of a combination of like high neutral, maybe even like greed, probably realistically like greed for Bitcoin. And then we are in like extreme fear or fear for altcoins, because altcoins have just been getting crushed depending on which ones you're looking at. And so I think the neutral is kind of an average. It definitely probably underestimates Bitcoin and very overestimates altcoins, just at least from what I'm seeing so far. The other thing we can see too, which is a little bit interesting, is we have the open interest and volume. We can see open interest is actually, whoops, let's stop. This mouse is being a little bit difficult for me today. But what we can see here is, this is just over the last year. And we can see that open interest actually spiked up to 150 billion. It's pulled back pretty dramatically down to this like $110 billion range. So, a little rough there. If we do look at volume, even though it's lower than what we've seen over the past, maybe super recent past, it is still staying higher than what we saw kind of back before we saw kind of the kickoff here in like early November. So volume definitely staying higher, but it has pulled back from what we've seen over the past couple of days. This is fairly clear to see too. If we look at the let's not do that. If we look here at the very, very top, we can actually see 24-hour liquidations only at $122 million. If we go back in here, this is, I would say, about in line with what we should be expecting after some of what we saw last week. Last week, the liquidations were absolutely immense. And so this, it's about 50-50. These are just kind of leverage traders being leverage traders. This is just kind of how this goes. This, to me, I would say is back to actually probably less than normal, but this would have been about normal prior to the November type of run up that we did see. So, I think things still looking pretty good overall here. It's nice to see that we've recovered a little bit from the liquidation maps. I think this is part of like the fear or extreme fear that we are sitting in, just because so many of these alts have just been crushed. So I think it'll take a second for that to kind of ramp back up. Open interest, I think it will take a minute to ramp back up. We can see volume down about 50% over yesterday. So pretty just slow and boring day in the crypto market, if I'm being honest, from like an active participation perspective. But if we do look at my X account, I've actually kind of liked and retweeted and commented a whole bunch of different things onto my X account to show you guys a lot of like the bigger picture things that are happening that are really good news. We can see here 27 US states are pushing for Bitcoin adoption. Like 5 to 7 of these have all come within like the past week or maybe even 2 weeks. So there's definitely like a really strong kind of push for that here. As you can see here in my comment, I think there's probably a 50-50 chance we see all states in by the end of 2025, maybe 80% chance by 2026. 2025 may be a little bit soon for some of these, just because I do know some of these states move fairly slowly. So, we'll kind of have to see how this goes, but definitely a really good thing that we're seeing here. BitTensor about to be listed on Coinbase, which is pretty cool. So, continued growth within the crypto space, crypto ecosystem. This is going to be a good thing for AI, I think, overall. And then also we can see here, Hong Kong now officially accepts Bitcoin and crypto as proof of assets to apply for residency. this is really good, right? I mean, this is something where China has typically been a little bit antagonistic to crypto. So the fact that we are seeing this kind of policy change, I think is a pretty good thing to see. Then also we'll take a look here, a couple of different things. I felt like this was probably the best way to present it just because we had so many different posts that I thought were kind of fundamentally bullish to Bitcoin and crypto that I wanted to kind of show you guys just a quick run through of all the things that we're seeing, even though by all intents and purposes, we are having a relatively boring day in the crypto market. So as we can see here, also, we've seen about 16,200 Bitcoin mined in 2025, but ETFs have bought about 56,000. So it's got to be coming from somewhere, right? And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing here is a supply shock is coming because there are a certain number of people or institutions or entities or whatever that is looking to unload their Bitcoin. But the demand here is obviously vastly outpacing the level of production, which is at some point going to create a supply shock. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. Also, we can see here something similar for Ethereum as well. ETH shorts piling on heavy while ETH ETF demand showing outsized strength. Basically, we can see exactly that. About 1,450 Bitcoin were sold and 3,840 ETH were bought on February 6th. Bitcoin ETFs saw 140 million in net outflows while ETH saw 10 million in inflows. This has been kind of a recurring trend recently. We've started to see some Bitcoin outflows from the ETFs and some Ethereum inflows. So we'll have to kind of track this a little closer, see kind of what this could mean. But overall, I think what we're seeing so far is a pretty interesting shift, even though, like I said, we haven't really seen too much going on within the alt market. I would say it's been actually really bad. We were talking about, is alt season over? A lot of this type of stuff. This to me is all really, really good news, right? Because if everybody's expecting it and everybody's thinking it's going to happen, it's probably not going to. And so we need this level of fear to test people's convictions, get them to sell. Obviously, prices have gone really, really, really down. So there are clearly people selling. So this is kind of the stuff that I want to see and that I would expect that we should see if an actual real altcoin season is to take place. So anyway, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me. I'd love to know your thoughts below in the comment section. I do try to read and respond to all of them. So if you have anything you want me to see, definitely do that. Also, please do give me a like and a subscribe. Really, really does help me out. I'm always trying to continue to grow the channel, increase the quality, all that type of stuff. So your support really does help with that. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.